The challenge layups are short. Another member again, right, with John not here for the first time. It is Phil and Annabelle. Annabelle redeeming herself after 2 weeks ago not being present, but here she is ready to carry the team as John is currently unavailable. So this should be pretty good, probably be pretty short. We finally had Big T go in to get her gold skull. It was the one challenge that we kind of agreed she would be able to beat Anissa in. We all pretty much had a feeling it was going to be Anissa who was going to be going in. Anissa goes in tonight, and Anissa might still be up there if they didn't actually let her down. If it was a life or death situation, I think she'd still be up on the fire escape pole. Annabelle, did this go pretty much the way you expected? Was there any surprises in tonight's episode?
I think I did actually expect Anissa to outlast Big T for the season, not necessarily like due to this challenge in particular with the fire escape, but I thought, Anissa would win this one, send Big T home, and then they would just throw Anissa down immediately, next girl's elimination. That was kind of my thought, but I think it's really awesome to see Big T win and win very respectably, and very she smoked Anissa. It wasn't even close.
Yeah, and I think credit's being given to Big T here for smoking Anissa, but Anissa didn't even get over the first hump, and I think that's pretty crazy considering everything. She really was not competitive in this challenge, and that's something that you, John, and I have talked about previously, where a lot of these ending challenges aren't competitive this season, and that's ultimately leading to these kind of dud endings where nothing exciting is happening. Granted, Big T is the fan favorite here, at least from this perspective. It feels like she's the fan favorite. So I do feel like there's a little bit more drama and a little bit more investment surrounding her, but she won so easily. And all I could think to myself was, if that was Natalie or Ashley from the first one, they would have probably beaten Big T by an entire length of pole there. So even though it was impressive and it was good to see her beat Anissa, this really was probably the only thing she was going to be able to beat anybody in. And her destroying Anissa is really more on Anissa than her, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I think it is good to see Big T pull that off just because, like you said, she is the fan favorite and, she's waited so long to go down there and she finally had her opportunity. But, I like Anissa a lot as a TV character, but I do kind of feel, I don't know, I guess some sympathy for her just because this is her 14th season. She's never won. I think she's only made like 1 or 2 finals in all of her seasons because no one ever lets her get there. It sucks to see her fall short again, but like with challenges that are not, strength-based or really anything kind of, what did Cam call them earlier this season? Headbangers. If it's not a headbanger challenge, it's just not going to be Anissa's strong suit. She's just not well-rounded enough of a competitor. So, yeah, Big T definitely got the better of her on this one.
Yeah, Big T did. And now my question to you is with TJ at the end saying what we all kind of anticipated, which is you all have a gold skull, but that does not mean that this is over, and I don't think it is. I don't think this is a shock to anybody. I think there's 3 more episodes left. So, that means that there's going to be some more eliminations. Does Big T manage to hold on to this skull, or is she going to be the 5th place female finisher, and the other 4 women left in this game are going to be the ones running the final?
As much as I would love to have Big T for the rest of the season, I think she's going to go right back down there next time there's a female elimination. I think just politically, the way the house is stacking up right now, you have Casey and Leroy, Nany and Fessy, and Cam and Corey. So Nany, Cam, and Casey, they're kind of the majority for the women. So that leaves Amber B, and that leaves Big T, who were kind of on the outside looking in. So for that final spot in the final, assuming we run it with 4 men and 4 women, the majority's just going to throw down the 2 odd ones out and be like, okay, fight for it. Whoever wins comes to the final with us. So I do think we'll see another elimination with Big T, and I'm assuming it'll be with Amber B, unless Amber B ends up being, double agent that week.
Yeah, that's going to be the only thing that can really throw a wrench in these plans is if Amber B or Big T manage to become double agent at the last, before the last episode here, because otherwise it is just going to be the 2 of them facing off against each other. Casey, Cam, they're going to the final. Nany, she's going to the final. I think it's pretty much a done deal unless one of them is able to pull it off, which Big T decides to stay with CT tonight. How do we feel about this decision ultimately? Because maybe that's a good way to try to protect her skull, because her and CT have had some success. But like Kyle said, you just completely blew an opportunity to be able to mix up the game and ensure that it's not just this dominant trio / six. I don't know what you would call six, but six of them.
Yeah, I think that's kind of been sort of the whole strategic storyline for Kyle this season, is he just keeps running into walls with people who are not willing to stir the pot. And that's Kyle's whole game, is wanting to stir the pot. He's not really loyal to anybody but himself. I kind of expected her to stay with CT. I just think we've seen enough of him and her trying to build and destroy and rebuild their emotional bond. And, we saw the hall brawl training, even though that didn't end up being a factor, but it was still cute content. It didn't really seem super feasible to me, just from an editing perspective, that she would leave CT. But I think it would have been interesting if she had gone with a Fessy to shake things up a little bit. But yeah, I guess at this point, because everybody has a goal, it's not so much about shielding yourself so much as it is just trying to win the next daily to make sure you don't have to go back down there. And I think she would probably have really just as good of a chance with CT as she has with Fessy, if not better with CT, because we've seen them perform better in the dailies than Fessy has.
And how many men are left? There's 6 men left?
No, there's 5. So there's 10 people left total.
So this evened it up. This made it 10.
Up, yeah, because there were 6 women, and then Amber B was the rogue agent.
Amber B was the rogue agent. Yes, sorry, I could not.
So with Anissa leaving, now it's even 5 and 5. So,
2 more eliminations.
Yeah, we're assuming 1 more male elimination next week, and then 1 more female elimination, I would assume, the following week, and then we have the final.
So really what's going to be big next week as well is knowing that it's probably going to be a male elimination. If a female wants to take the chance, you want to lose your partner next week, because then that ensures you run the final. If you're rogue agent, the women are at a bit of an advantage here, because if you're rogue agent going into the last episode, you're going to run the final. That is going to happen. So there is a bit of a little bit of a advantage to just losing your partner next week. And it'll be interesting to see who wants to make that happen, because now Kyle and Amber B are together. Does Amber B want Kyle at all? Not really. So if Kyle were to go home and let's say he loses to CT might take Amber B, and then Big T is running the final, and there's no way the women can prevent that. That's really the main thing that could throw a wrench in this plan. So as I was saying at the beginning, I didn't think there was anything. That seems to be what the actual thing that could throw off this entire game would be if one of Big T or Amber B lose their partner next week, and it ultimately ends up where one of the other 3 in power have to go down there and take out Amber B or Big T, because you can't throw both of them in.
Right. Yeah, no, that could definitely be a huge wrench in the majority's plan. I guess we'll kind of have to see what happens. I think just as a duo, with how powerful Casey and Leroy have been, I would think they, no matter what it is, I think they probably have a pretty good shot at winning the daily. Obviously, that can kind of vary. We know that we saw in the swimming challenge last week, Leroy was terrified. Fessy kicked Nani in the face. So there's always factors like that that could come into play that can mess up your chances of a daily. But yeah, no. And for all I know, it could be another women's elimination, and then the men have kind of that rogue agent advantage. We'll just kind of have to see how it shakes out. But I mean, last week having what was the elimination last week?
It was the they didn't even get to pull. It was Darrell versus Corey.
That's right. Yeah, it was Darrell versus Corey. So with it being men's last week and women's this week, I feel like they maybe wouldn't do back-to-back women's eliminations.
I don't think so. The women have been at kind of a disadvantage all season, or at least they've had a lot less chances to actually play the game. So I do think that you're going to end up seeing the men go in here so that the women do have this one thing, considering it's just been a chaotic year for the women because they've had more people actually pulled from the game. Yeah. So I do think that you're ultimately going to see a man be eliminated next week. And it will be interesting to see if CT ends up being stuck with Big T running this final, because what happens if CT does Or like if one of the women win and decide to take CT as a partner, or maybe Amber M says, I'd rather be with CT than with Kyle, or Kyle, loses. Now Amber M's the rogue agent. Who does she end up with? I think there's a lot of ways that this can go moving forward, but I do think it would be funny if CT and Big T somehow win the challenge next week, and then CT stuck running the final with Big T after being so excited to get rid of her, having to come back to her. And now it would be the perfect ending to this story to have the two of them running this final together.
It would. It definitely would be the perfect ending. I hate to sound pessimistic. I don't see it happening.
I don't either.
I think, even if, I don't think CT necessarily wants to go back down there again, but if he feels like that's the only way to shake himself of Big T for a final, and he's that concerned about it, I think he would do it. He probably thinks he has a better chance with pretty much anyone else left in the game other than her in the final.
Absolutely. 100%. All right. So we've been yelled at in the past for not recapping the episode. So let's recap the episode and not look too far into the future. But what did we think about the skydiving challenge tonight? A lot of theatrics for very little payoff, or was this worth its weight in gold?
I think the challenge likes to do big, flashy, fun, cool types of activities. And I think there's definitely a lot of entertainment merit to that. I don't know how. I don't want to say it wasn't physically demanding, because they did have a really long run from where they landed in the skydiving field to the end of it where they had to put the puzzle together. But really the only physical part of it was just they didn't show, I don't think, exactly how far the run was. I'm guessing it was maybe a mile or something, because it looked pretty long. And at one point Kyle was decently far ahead of Anissa, maybe 200 meters or so. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing it was mile and a half maybe. So not an unbearably awful run, but not a sprint for sure. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think they probably did the skydiving more for the optics more than anything. And I think they like to see people freak out on camera and kind of have that mind over matter element to the challenge. But we talked about last week, you and John, there's no way y'all would ever, you would just end up getting DQ'd because you wouldn't want to jump off the plane.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I hate doing it. I hate watching other people do it. It makes me sick to my stomach, and I'm just waiting. Look, I understand that when you're on MTV, you're on CBS, and The Amazing Race does things like this. They have you so harnessed in and everything, and they're extra safe because they don't want the lawsuits. They don't want any of that. But at the same time, accidents happen. You never plan for an accident to happen. A plane never expects to crash. It just does. And I'm always just watching this going, all right, this is going to be the person who I have to watch splatter on the ground. I don't need to see that. I don't want to see that. And I just feel like it's going to happen. But with this challenge, I'm assuming the timer didn't actually start until they hit the ground, right? Because you're not really in control of your free fall.
Right.
Otherwise, I'd be saying, all right, man, I really want to win this one. Don't pull the parachute till we're about to hit so that I get down there really fast. You're not really in control. So it had to have just started there. So really, the whole skydiving element of this was for nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think they just, again, they know a lot of contestants and a lot of people in general have a big fear of heights. So I think it's just kind of adding that extra pressure factor to it, and just the adrenaline and the fact that, we're so close to the final. They're really kind of just itching to get to that next phase. So I think it was just kind of more mental and more for not shock value, but kind of Daredevil type vibes more than anything. No. It's supposed to be kind of a badass show. So they add in that badass element with it. Excuse my French, but
it makes sense. And it's not something, I don't knock them for doing this. I get it does have that cool thing optically, even though ultimately it doesn't actually add anything to the game. It does add something to the show. It does add excitement to the show. It does add a pretty cool layer to the show. So that is always also going on with this. So I do think that there's that, which does make it interesting. And yeah, it's going to be one of those things, it's the water cooler moment. The water cooler moment is talking about, would you do it? I remember in Survivor Australia when they jump off the waterfall. That's what people talk about. That's what people remember, because it's an interesting thing that you can put yourself in that perspective. It's a little bit harder to say, would I be able to do that puzzle? Because you don't actually know what's going on in that puzzle. So I get it. It's pretty cool. Ultimately, it is more for the TV show element than for anything to do with the actual game, but that's fine. It is a TV show at the end of the day. So do what you have to do.
I do think, though, to some degree, they kind of add those cool adventure elements to it to keep contestants interested in coming back. Because a lot of people say that one of the reasons that I love to do the challenge is because I get to do these cool things I've never done before and go to places I've never been before. Like that's why they are in Iceland, and they've been, you know, all over South America and like different places in Europe, and they've been to Thailand a bunch of times. Like they want to keep it interesting for the contestants because they're continuing to like recycle through their previous casting lists. So I think that's definitely part of it too. They want people to stay excited and stay invested.
I think that's 100% right, because that's the same thing, like getting people to go on Survivor. People, they say, oh my God, you're starving yourself and all that. But a lot of the time you're going to cool locations.
Yeah.
You're doing something interesting. You're living on the beach for a couple days. How many people get to do that? Even if you're only there for 3 days, that's the incentive. The incentive is kind of just that adventure element of everything. And I think that's what kind of works in this show is, yeah, I mean, a lot of these people might never skydive at another time, but now you've been forced to skydive. And now it's great because if you're Leroy or Cam and one of you doesn't like skydiving and the other one does, you can say, no, we already did that together, honey. We don't need to do that again.
Right.
I still wish that Darrell would have lasted this long, though, because I would have loved to seen Darrell jumping out of an airplane. I think that would have been absolutely phenomenal.
I think his whole mouth would have been blurred that entire segment, just like gussing up the storm. That would have been funny.
Oh, yeah.
See, but he's probably watching this back going like, whew.
Thank God I was voted out. Yeah, thank God I got knocked out of the game, because, man, your heart beating through your chest on that. He probably would have passed out. He would have just blacked out from panic. I mean, that happens, people.
Yeah, Phil, if they had changed the format of this where only one team member had to skydive and memorize the puzzle and then had to tell it to the other one who was running, this would have been a good one for you and I to tag team, because we
would have dominated this.
And you can
We would have dominated. Yeah, I can run, and we would have dominated this. I mean, not to brag to the very few people watching, but I've run a 4:29 mile before, and that was in high school. So, you know, there's a lot of things that I can do pretty well, but running is something that I can do pretty extremely well, whatever the hell that means. So that would be a good one, because I would definitely not be jumping out of that plane. I'd be running away from you, who I'd be like, how the hell is this lady even walking at this point? She should be smushed. So I'd be running away from you because you'd be risen like a zombie. So no, that would be a good one. I always wish, it's something I always think about. Like, I would have been so good at the early seasons of Survivor. The late ones I can't do. And I think it's the same thing with the challenge. I feel like a lot of times these seasons, when they start off, or these shows, they're trying to figure out how can we kind of, you know, just do something, and they don't really know yet. So a lot of it will be like a relay race or something like that. That's when I would have been good. Now doing crap like this, or, you know, whatever, they had to dig up I remember the one where they had to dig up everything and build the totem, digging those things up. That's tedious. I don't find that fun. I don't want to do that. That doesn't sound like a good time to me.
Yeah, it's like more complicated for the TV aspect of it, but it's not necessarily like, I don't know. I guess it's harder to train for. Like, I mean, they're obviously still lifting weights and running and working on their cardio and their stamina, but yeah, it's not like a relay race, like you said. Like the final, to some degree, is a little bit more straightforward in terms of like, there is like some checkpoints where they're going to have to do puzzles and things like that, but it's a little bit less about like the fluff of it, I guess, and a little bit more about like testing your limits. And it's usually over the course of multiple days. So definitely kind of a long game type of thing you have to focus on with the final, and a little bit more, you know, stamina based and more, you can't fake it, you know, you can't get lucky in a final. Like you're
not going to get lucky. Yeah.
You either are good and a good competitor, or you're not.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of how you want these shows to end, and I think that's what really does work with this show, you know, because that really is like, you want this type of show to end on a note where you don't feel like it's controversial, or you don't feel like it was like a cheap sellout, like you see in The Amazing Race a lot. It always kind of, there's a lot of wins that just feel cheap. This last one with Will and James, I mean, even talking to Will and James, they were like, yeah, that was kind of cheap. But, you know, you don't want it to feel cheap, and I think that's good. And I'm interested to see what they're going to do, because obviously they've had a hard time from a production standpoint, coming up with new challenges, coming up with ways to keep this fresh. They've repeated. This was the third fire escape we've seen this season. They've done a lot of repeating. So how are we going to be able to, what are they going to do for this final challenge? It's going to be different and exciting enough to keep us watching and rooting for the people that we want to ultimately win.
I mean, they're in Iceland, which is a pretty isolated place already, but they've done a final in Iceland before. It was Battle of the X's, I believe, was the season. CT competed on that one, and it was it was like super snowy. They were doing like hiking in snowshoes. They had to drive like a dog sled at one point. It was, hiking like straight up a mountain. So it was very much like a cold environment and a lot of long distance stuff. And that's just, I don't know. I can't decide which would be worse, like running in the dead heat of like a desert or, in a snow big bank where you can like barely move your feet because the snow is so thick. But I think just because they'll be kind of on like a mountain and isolated from everyone else, I think it probably won't be an issue with COVID, and they'll obviously be outdoors. But I mean, I don't really know how else they would do it. They can't run a final in the challenge house or in the crater.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we did have that challenge earlier in the season where it was like a mini final.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really long and all of that. So that maybe that's what happens here. Maybe it's something similar to that where they kind of just find one of those fields that's on the top of a mountain or, somewhere in between the mountains in a valley or something. And everybody just runs that. I mean, maybe that's what happens. So who knows?
Could be, but hopefully it's, optically interesting. Hopefully we get to see them kind of trudge through the snow. They've done like cross country skiing before, which is kind of cool to see as somebody who's never done anything like that. So
yeah, it will be interesting, and it'll be interesting to see how the pair dynamic actually works out too, because it's starting to get to the point where clearly everybody's thinking about their pairs and who do I want to steal and who do I want to get and all of that. But how do you who is going to be the best pairing? And I guess that's something we could probably talk about because I don't feel like there was much going on here in this episode. I hate that I've been able to predict pretty much who's going to be running against who in the most recent season. It just feels like every time, I know who's going to be going against who in the challenge here at the end. And a lot of that, like we've said in the past, comes down to the fact that the gold skull twist is there. But if you are some of these players, if you're Fessy, who is the guy that everybody wants, what's your best chance of winning out of the women, and who are you looking to run this final with if you're Fessy?
I think you take Casey or Cam.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're in good shape with either of them. Corey and Fessy had like some drama, obviously, at the beginning of the season, with him going in against Nelson, who's Corey's boy, and Hall Brawl at the very beginning. So I don't know where he stands, I guess, with Corey now to know if he would feel comfortable taking Cam away from Corey.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he has a definite stronger chance with Casey rather than really Nany or Big T, or I mean Amber B. I don't think is a hindrance to anybody. I really don't think anyone's a hindrance to anybody, but I think Casey and Cam are the definite assets to the team. So that's kind of what I think he would do. And Casey's with Leroy, and I don't know. I don't feel like Fessy and Leroy really have that same, they're working together, but I don't think they're that close on a personal level. We haven't seen any kind of content with the two of them. So I don't think he would feel a lot of guilt taking Casey away. And Casey's done a final last season. Well, the two of them both made the final. Casey did better than Fessy did. Casey came in second for the girls, but two of the girls ended up dropping out of the final. So it was a little bit different of a story. But yeah, I think Cam or Casey would give him the best bet if you're Fessy. So it'll be interesting to see what he does, and if Nany ends up being okay with it, because we know they've kind of been butting heads a little bit on a personal level. So I kind of wonder who Nany's going to end up with. If he takes Casey from Leroy and Nany are pretty good friends. So at least on a chemistry level, that could be a pretty good pairing as well.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think about how this would play out, but if the women get the final say, if the woman who wins the last challenge kind of gets her say, you'd have to think that whoever that woman is going to take Fessy. Right. That's what you would think, at least. And if they don't take Fessy, then they're probably taking CT or Leroy. Right. But if you're, I don't know how that would shake up, but I feel like Fessy's probably who you're going to take. So I don't think Fessy's in danger of running this final with Big T. I think that's out. I do think Amber B could be a surprise in the final because, granted, I've never seen a challenge final, but with how much I hear about endurance and things like that, Amber B seems like somebody who is built for these kinds of endurance type challenges.
Mhm.
And I know she had said she was like a rugby player or something like that. That's why she was able to kill Amber M. I think a lot of that just has to do with the fact that Amber M is really small. But I do think that Amber B could be a surprisingly really good final person to run with. I'd still probably take Cam or Casey over her, but I do think that she's going to be somebody who's going to not be necessarily on people's radars as a top choice, and then is going to come out and actually do really well as a partner here in the final. So we'll have to kind of keep an eye on that. But if you're right and Amber B is going to go in the last challenge, if both of us are right, and Amber B is going to go in the last challenge against Big T, we might end up in a situation where Amber B just picks Fessy straight up because that's what she gets to do. Now, it could also be a problem, though, of whichever man is the rogue agent, or no, the woman would be the rogue agent, but whichever guy or something, like if she takes Fessy and then that person, it's just, there's going to be a lot of chaos at the end here. And whichever woman is the rogue agent, are they out of the Fessy sweepstakes, which is always kind of crazy to me too. Is Fessy really the best person to be running this final with? I don't necessarily think so from everything I've heard, but it seems like that's who everybody is still fighting to have.
Yeah, I think he's definitely like the favorite. And I agree with you. I do think Amber B is kind of like that dark horse person. Like she's not necessarily on everybody's radar as like the top pick, the blue blood, but she does like, I mean, we've seen her, she can compete. Like she's won a couple dailies. She did obviously beat up Amber M in that hall brawl for whatever the reason was. You can't take away the fact that she beat her handily. But yeah, I think it is interesting to see that Fessy is the one that they're all fighting over. Someone brought it up in the comments, and they're absolutely correct that Fessy did make the final last season. There were 5 men and 4 women who ran it. 2 of the women dropped out. One was injured, and one just essentially quit. She couldn't hack it. And Fessy, of the 5 men, he did place 4th. So, I mean, he didn't come in dead last, and I guess he made the final, but he didn't completely blow it out of the water either. Like he didn't win. And last season was one of those all or nothing finals where only the first place finishers got money. So, I mean, he, killed himself for a couple days and walked away with nothing. So if it's a similar final to last season with like the snow and kind of the multiple day hikes and the cross country skiing, which I'm anticipating it will be just based on the location, I think Fessy may honestly not be your best bet here. I mean, CT has done a final in Iceland before. I don't remember specifically if Leroy's done any finals in the snow. I'm having trouble thinking of any. But yeah, I don't think Fessy's really the only option here, but he certainly seems to be the favorite among the women in the house.
Yeah, which is interesting too, because I almost feel like he could be the 5th best out of everybody who's still left in the game. I don't know how Kyle is at a lot of these things because I feel like Kyle's there mostly for comic relief. But I mean, I don't know. It could be that Fessy's the worst out of the bunch. Leroy and CT and Corey are all studs. Kyle's pretty close to being a stud. So there's a good chance that Fessy's actually the worst option here. And whoever ends up running with Fessy does the worst in the final, assuming Fessy gets to the final, because I am assuming Kyle is probably going to be thrown in because people don't want Kyle and he doesn't have the numbers at all. And that to me makes me think that any of the guys left will beat Kyle at this final challenge. It just feels like Kyle is going to miss the final here.
Yeah, I agree. And so last season, both Kyle and Corey were on there and they both made the final. Kyle actually placed 2nd and Corey placed 3rd.
Okay. And who won? It was Johnny Bananas. Okay. Yeah, no, I know. Everybody talks about Johnny Bananas, so I know who Johnny Bananas is.
Yeah, no, he's like the Tony Vlachos of the challenge, honestly. Like multiple time winner, crazy guy. But yeah, no, he's not on. But yeah, Kyle did well. Corey did pretty well. I think. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be kind of interesting to see. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought here.
All good, no worries. Happens all the time. You got to do the Michael Scott and just keep talking until you hopefully get somewhere.
Yeah, no, that's right. But yeah, I don't know how Fessy will end up doing in this one. I think there are other people who definitely could have an edge on him for sure. And I think Kyle, there's no way he doesn't go down next week.
There's no way.
There's no way.
Unless he wins the daily, but he's partnered up with Amber B. I don't know. I mean, maybe they could end up being a surprise team.
And it's just the fact that they're brand new partners. They don't know anything about each other's like communication style and quirks, and like there's just no team chemistry yet. Where the other teams, like Casey and Leroy, have been together this entire consistency and partnership. I think has really, really helped them, especially in this label agents and that nightmare over Amber B, because Kyle just got eliminated, or Nani.
And he'd probably take Nani.
I think he would too because of their friendship.
And then Amber B is in the final anyway.
So Amber B is being the rogue agent, yeah.
So Amber B might have accidentally just stepped in shit by being the person who gets to be rogue agent. Big T doesn't switch, and now stuck with Amber B. Kyle's the one that everybody wants to throw down, and now all of a sudden Amber B is really well positioned to run the final because nobody's dying to run the final with her. And if you would have told me that at the beginning of the season when she was barely on my TV for the first however many episodes, I would have told you you're absolutely crazy. And I still don't feel like I know Amber B all that well, but she might be about to run this final, and she might have the best chance out of all the women to run the final because nobody's going to try to take her. And therefore she might be going into the final episode of this season or the final episode before the final already knowing that she's going to be running in it, and it's just a matter of who's her partner going to be.
Yeah, and she could get really lucky and end up with somebody like CT, because if CT, tries to get Big T thrown in to get rid of her, he would gladly pick up Amber B, don't you think?
Well, absolutely. And any of the women, see, the thing would be the women would be the first choice here. So the women would go in, any of the three of Casey, Nani, or Cam would beat Big T. Amber B is sitting there. Casey, Nani, Cam, whichever one is the winner, would get their pick of a partner, and then Big T would pick, or then CT would pick between Amber and whoever else. I don't know, or would he pick, or would one of the girl would the girl who just got left out to dry pick? The girl who just got left out to dry would pick.
Yeah, it's whichever sex was competing.
So CT, there's a situation here where Amber B is just kind of, or not even a situation, but there's a good chance that Amber B is just going to be stuck with whoever the other women don't want. If what we're thinking would happen next week.
And who do you think, like, assuming Kyle goes home, who do you think that like leftover man would be?
So I think that Leroy, somebody's going to definitely pick Leroy.
Yeah, I agree.
I think somebody's definitely going to pick Fessy. It needs to be CT or Corey. It's just going to depend kind of on who it is that wins, and depending on if they want to work with CT or Corey more, because I guess then it just comes down to preference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel too. I mean, I don't think people are still thinking about that Corey curse like this late in the game.
Well, no, it's too late. Yeah.
And like Corey, he's made it to a number of finals since he first started his time on the show. He's yet to win, but he's usually like a pretty consistent, like second or third place finisher. CT's won 3 times. So if I'm in that position, I'd pick up CT because he has experience and stamina, and like Fessy was, so we'll get it. Can we get into kind of like the fight?
Yeah, go ahead.
So in kind of the party bubble, we saw Fessy poke that bear a little bit with CT, basically saying like, oh, like you're so awesome. You've won before. Basically step aside. It's time for the Young Bucks to kind of take over. And that's what a lot of guys thought last season. And then Johnny Bananas won for the 7th time. So I think it's just, it can be really hard to beat the really well-seasoned vets. It takes people a lot of seasons sometimes to actually win a challenge. That's why they keep coming back, because they have this like addiction to competing and they want to win. They want to try again really hard. So yeah, that was kind of an interesting fight to see the 2 big alpha males go at it, and CT rips his wig off. He's like, I know. My hair, like it was
so over the top.
Yeah,
he's so over the top.
Yeah, that kind of seemed to me like another one of those CT trying to get camera time. I mean, I do think he was probably like agitated in that moment, But when they were literally talking about, they're going to show the footage of us on the semi, like they're actively thinking about how this is going to be shown on TV. And I'm like, this is so meta. They're just, this is ridiculous.
That's when reality TV starts to have a problem, when people are thinking about, okay, how is this going to play to the audience? That's when it starts to get weird. I mean, ultimately between CT and Fessy, I do like CT more than Fessy. So I was rooting for CT in that little whatever fight. But yeah, I don't know. It will be interesting with CT winning 3 times, but also being the oldest one out there. Do you trust somebody who's won before and just rather run it with him? I don't know. I don't know how that's going to shape up. But what did you think about Aneesa getting totally ripped at the deliberation and her getting really defensive there? Speaking of like fights, what did you think about that?
I mean, I honestly have like a lot of sympathy for Aneesa, because I feel like because she doesn't have the results, people just don't respect her. And I understand that to a certain degree, but like she's still a human being, and like this kind of goes back to the strategy that we've talked about, where like, don't you want weak people around in the final so you can beat them? I don't know. I just didn't really understand why she was getting so much crap thrown at her, and she really like didn't deserve it. And you know, she's more of a veteran than pretty much any of these other women. Like at this point, she's done the most seasons out of all of them. Like she's won some eliminations. This obviously was not hers to win, but I don't know. I thought that was kind of unwarranted, and that's not really something you want to see at this point when everybody's like supposedly friends. You don't really want to see that happening.
Yeah, I think a lot of this too is just Aneesa's frustration, knowing that she's going to end up losing again and feeling that it was going to happen again. And I think a lot of it was just frustration and being like, all right, F all of you, like you're all here because of me. I just think that you know, that was kind of where it was coming from. I don't think there's actually anger there. I think she's just frustrated with how everything's shaking up, and she could see the writing on the wall that, oh my God, I'm gonna have to go in, and if I lose the big T, then that's it. I have no shot again. Because if Aneesa wins this one again, like we've been saying all night, if Aneesa gets through this episode, there's a chance that Aneesa is automatically running the final if her partner leaves next week. And I think that's something to, you know, that the guys are probably taking into account, and they're like, okay, we're running out of time to get rid of Aneesa. We need to make sure she can go in there every chance we get now, so that we don't have to run the final with her.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that was just the men, you know, trying to, they're all assuming that this is going to run in pairs. And I think honestly, they're probably right.
I think they're right.
I don't really see any other way that it would shake out at this point, just because the whole thing has been double agents. So,
and there's been no hint at it ever being single agent, a rogue agent, but rogue is not normal.
Yeah, exactly. Rogue is like the odd one out for a reason. Yeah. So someone in the comments, Adrian Celeste, said, do you like Aneesa's comment on how a woman of color is likely winning this season? I think that is a really cool statement. And if I'm not mistaken, all the women left are women of color.
Yeah, she did say that on her way out. And then it was funny to me, though, because we have not heard Aneesa say that all season long. And now as she's leaving, she's like, so my mission is complete. And I'm like, all right, you just gave yourself a fake mission at the end of the game here to make yourself feel better as you were leaving, because that was not your mission the entire time. All season, all we've heard is that Aneesa wants to win, Aneesa wants to win, Aneesa wants to win, Aneesa wants to win. And now all of a sudden it's, oh, well, I really win because a woman of color wins. And that's great. But this is such an out of left field statement from Aneesa that while the statement itself is great, her saying it and acting like, oh, well, this is what I've always wanted, it really isn't. And I think that that's a little misleading. I think that she's just trying to find a rainbow in the misery of not winning for the 14th time.
Sure. And I think also, like, your final words are supposed to be your opportunity to kind of really like speak to the audience, like milk that camera time for all it's worth. And like, I do like that this is what she used that time for, because I do think it is important. And it's awesome. I mean, Nany has Latina heritage, and then Cam, Casey, Big T, Aneesa, obviously, and Amber B, they all have African-American heritage. So this is really cool. So no matter which woman ends up winning for the women, you know, that'll be great for, you know, just kind of having more women of color represented. So I like that she used it to kind of make a statement. It's not exactly You might be right. It's not really the most like authentic.
It's not what she wanted.
It's not the most
what she
authentic thing to say. Yeah, but I like that she used that moment. I mean, March is Women's History Month, and February was Black History Month, and that's when this is airing. So I think it was, it was a timely thing.
It was timely for sure, but I will just keep going because I can't help myself. It is not what Aneesa wanted. Aneesa wanted Aneesa winning.
Yeah, no, sure. Everybody wants
Aneesa 100%. Aneesa would have gone to the final with Gabby and Ashley and whoever else. I'm drawing a blank on the other white one on the season. If it would have meant she had a good chance to win. So while it is a good statement at the end, it also feels like a little hindsight 2020 type thing where it's like, hey, I'm just realizing this now. This is great. Or maybe she had realized it previous, but I totally think that she was down to, she wanted to win. Aneesa wanted to win this game. And I think it's more of just a going out kind of looking for the positive in the entire thing. And good. That's a good way to leave games. That's for sure.
Right. Do you think it was her swan song? Like she never talked about.
No, because she's on All Stars.
Oh, that's right. She is on All Stars. Okay, so she's not retiring.
Yeah, she's on All Stars, so we know that.
So we know she'll be back at least for All Stars and potentially future seasons.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Well, there goes my theory on that one. But
so there goes that. I know. I got nothing. Look, good statement, all of that. I'm all about that, but it's not what she wanted. It's not. Aneesa wanted Aneesa to win, and I think at the end of the day, you do go on reality TV to be selfish. You don't go on reality TV. Some people go on reality TV to make statements or political statements or whatever it is. But most people go on reality TV to be selfish and win money and win prize money and become famous because of it. That's what people really want from reality TV. They don't go on there to be like, oh, great, I'm so happy that a person of color won and I didn't. That's not how Aneesa's saying the right things. But she's essentially, you look at this last thing, your final words, it's pretty much your press conference after you lose the game.
Right, exactly.
Very rarely do people who lose the game. Remember when Cam Newton was saying, you want to see show me a good loser, I'll show you a loser. Everybody got all angry. And it's like, well, yeah, he was actually being authentic. So sometimes you need to, not saying that she's not happy a woman of color is going to win. I'm just saying she's not being 100% authentic because she certainly would have rather won.
I mean, can you blame her after 14
attempts? No, absolutely not. I mean, that's what I always think about that, when you talk about Survivor and now it's going to be 15% people of color and or 50%, not 15%. God, 15% is what it normally is. But 50% and all of that. And that's all great and everything. But like in reality, like if I was going on Survivor, I still want to win. Like I'm not going on Survivor to be like, great, I'm so happy that our season had the black male winner or the black female winner or the first Asian female winner. All those things are great, but like, if you go on, you want to win. And Aneesa wanted to win this game. She did. And that was her story all season long. And you know what? Like if she would have been totally fine running this final with CT or Kyle, if that was going to be her best chance to win, so it really just comes down to, she's using the platform and she's using MTV and that's good. That's what you're supposed to do when you come on these things. And it's better going out that way than, Jeff Kent complaining about how the $1 million is.
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, it's a much more powerful statement than it's only about 600,000 by the time Obama takes it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do also think that you and I have to check our white privilege a little bit. Like we maybe wouldn't think about, oh, I'm so happy to be on a season like with the black winner or a Hispanic winner or whatever. But like we're not racial minorities, so it's a little bit different for us.
Yeah, but I'd still want to win.
Oh, everybody goes out there playing to win, but I agree.
So she's on season 37, so she's not retiring. Darrell is also on season 37. I don't know. I don't know if I can watch it. Although it will be easier for me to watch season 37 than this because now tonight I was working and I barely got this one in anyway. So watching it when it comes on Paramount Plus, I think they're just throwing it up at midnight on Thursdays.
For 37 or for All Stars?
For All Stars. All Stars, yeah, my bad.
Yeah, I think All Stars is just streaming. I would imagine 37 would kind of be like on the normal.
Yeah, it is. It is. I keep getting confused and calling 37 All Stars.
Yeah, because it's kind of like a separate show. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. I actually did. And not
now
get.
I was going to say.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, it was cutting out, but go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say I canceled my Paramount Plus subscription because I'm taking a little bit of a break from watching old Challenge and Survivor seasons and trying to get into other shows. So I'll probably re-get it for All Stars, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think it makes sense now too why they chose April 1st, because Anissa and Darrell are both gone. And we should have probably seen the writing on the wall for that Anissa was definitely not going to make it past the March 31st episode. I almost would have thought that maybe on March 31st, she actually went home. And then that's why we can come out. But now we all know she's not going to win this season anyway. So now there's no spoilers at all with All Stars. So anyway, that's all I got for this episode. Do you have anything for this episode that we did not touch on that you want to bring up, or should we call it?
So let's just to make it fun. And I know we probably should have done this at the beginning of the season, but I joined later. So who is your male and female winner pick of the people left?
Out of the people left, I think CT is going to win. I don't think Kyle has a chance in hell. I think Fessy's going to suck in the final, but everybody wants to run with him. I think that Corey might have a chance, but after what I saw with puzzles and feeling like there's probably going to be a pretty good amount of puzzles in this final just because they're a little limited, I don't really like his chances too much. I think Leroy has the best story right now, but I also don't know who Leroy is going to run the final with, because I don't think he's going to get into the final with Casey, and I know him and Cam don't want to run together, and so I start to get a little bit worried that, okay, if he runs with Nany, we were talking about today how there's 3 women better than Nany. If he runs with Amber B, there's 2 women better than Amber B. So I'm not too sure about Leroy. So I think it's going to be CT, but it's going to be a matter of who CT actually ends up partnering. And does he end up somehow managing to get Cam back and him and Cam just run this thing? Does he get Casey and they just run this thing? Does he get Amber B and the 2 of them are able to work well together to get through this? Does Big T somehow survive and he's stuck with Big T? That's really the only way I don't see him winning. I think that the women in this game are very strong. And look, Big T did great tonight, but I just also think that it was a matchup. It's a good matchup. As Annabelle and myself, who were terrible at March Madness brackets, as I learned this year, Annabelle, that you're really bad at them. It's sometimes just a matchup thing. Abilene Christian isn't a better team than Texas. It's just a matchup. And we saw that when Abilene Christian then got destroyed by UCLA. And so that's how I kind of feel about this. Big T doesn't necessarily, it's just the matchup, and it worked. And no offense, Annabelle, I still think you beat me. But
let me where it hurts,
that being said, I think that as long as he doesn't run it with Big T, he will win. And I just don't know who he's going to get. After what we kind of discussed tonight, it feels like him and Amber might be the leftovers. And they might be who nobody wants, and then they win.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen, because I think Fessy will go down for a hall brawl against Kyle. I think he will beat Kyle. I think he will take Casey. I think Nany will get with Leroy. I don't think anything's happening between Cam and Corey. And then I think CT will pick up Amber.
And so why would Fessy not take Cam? I guess that's the only part of the logic I can't get.
He just seems to be a little laser focused on Casey.
Yeah, I guess we have heard it a lot. And it's the big brother thing, so maybe that's why.
It is. It's kind of like that fraternity brotherhood of Big Brother, I guess, going on there. So, and potentially the Corey factor too. But yeah, no, I think those are your pairs. And yeah, I agree. I think CT would be my pick as well. So
yeah, and if CT runs it with Cam, they win in a landslide. If he runs it with Casey, they win easy. And if he runs it with Amber, I think that they pull it out somehow. If he runs with Nany, I don't know. Maybe then you have a Leroy and a Casey still running together, and then you say, okay, they're probably going to win this thing. If Leroy and Casey stay together, I think that they win, but I don't think there's any way Leroy and Casey stay together.
I don't think they stay together.
And I know Leroy doesn't want to go with Cam.
Yeah, and I think if you're any of the other men apart from CT, there's no way you let CT have Cam or Casey. You want him.
And so,
yeah.
If Cam, see, my problem for Cam is if Cam isn't going with Leroy, and if she's not going with Fessy, that means she's either going with CT, Corey, or Kyle. I don't see her and Corey working well together because I think their strengths are very opposite. I think Cam is a lot better at things than Corey is.
Right.
And then I think that if she runs it with CT, they would win, which is what I'm saying. CT would win. If she runs it with Kyle, there's going to be a stronger pair than her and Kyle for sure. And this is assuming they run in pairs, which I think is what's going to happen.
I just think, though, that we've seen Cam and CT butt heads on a personal level, and if they can't really manage their personalities and tempers in short daily challenges, I feel like that doesn't bode well for a final, even if physically they both are unstoppable and they both are good at puzzles and they both kind of are the package deal. If you don't have that team chemistry, it's like really going to cause some problems. So I don't know. I don't think it'll end up being Cam and CT together in a final. I think Cam stays with Corey personally.
Yeah, and I think that even if CT did have the choice, I think he's run his course with Cam. I don't think he goes back with her. And if Cam has her choice, I think she's run her course with CT and doesn't want to run with him. So yeah, I think CT is going to get Amber, Nany, or Casey. Most likely Amber or Nany. That's what I think is going to end up happening. I think Big T is going to be toasted in the last challenge. And I think that's what you're going to end up with. And I think if CT runs with Nany, it's going to be close. You know, I think that there might be a better pairing out there. Maybe Leroy and Casey stay together. Maybe Fessy and Casey run really well together in this final. Maybe that ends up being what pans out. But if he runs with Amber B, I think that they don't seem aggressive enough with each other in any way, shape, or form. And I think that would work well together in this final. Then again, I've never seen a final, so what the hell do I know? So
yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see kind of how it all shakes down. But I think both Cam and CT are confident enough in their own abilities that if they have an adequate partner, they probably feel like they'll be fine.
And I will say this, Cam and Leroy did great. They have a 50-50 shot at winning this game.
They do.
That's what they wanted. That's what they wanted coming in. They wanted to get both of them to the final on different teams, and that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
They got a 50-50 shot.
They've handled it pretty masterfully in terms of giving themselves the best chance to win that money. So it seems like Leroy is going to hang up his hat after this season. It'll be interesting to see if Cam does come back or if they continue to, or she's like, I'm going to go back to the challenge and keep trying to make the money for the two of them. Kind of like a Rob and Amber duo, but.
I know. While Leroy stays at home with the kids. That's what I like to imagine him as Amber. Yeah, for sure.
That's right. Cam's Boston Rob.
Boston Rob. That's right. Cam could never be as annoying as Boston Rob. So
no,
there is that going.
Absolutely not. Yeah, she's a little, not quite as, she doesn't have the accent for sure with Boston. She doesn't have the hat.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So people in the comments, I guess we can address this and then we can probably wrap up because it's been 55 minutes or so. But SP Fan 68, Michelle Fitzgerald rumors of being on season 37. So I haven't seen.
I guess I would have to watch, but if she starts hooking up with guys on it, I'm going to be heartbroken. I'm not going to watch anymore.
Disgusted. Yeah,
I'm going to stop. That's stupid. That's nonsense. I don't need that.
Aren't you engaged though?
Yeah. So what? I'm still disgusted. That doesn't mean Michelle should be going around flaunting it. That's terrible. No, I'm just kidding. No, Michelle, if she's on it, obviously I would be watching it. There's no doubt about it. Michelle's the greatest TV character of all time. I'd be sitting down, I'd be watching Michelle play, and it would be really fun. And I don't know. I just hope that I know that they're kind of trying to bleed in with the survivors. I don't want it to cheapify Survivor. I don't want it to. This is a cheap show. Let's be real. The challenge, cutting to commercials in the middle of a challenge is a waste of time. Cutting to confessionals in the middle of a challenge is a waste of time. It's gimmicky. Those are gimmicks. That's amateur hour 90s TV. And maybe that, I know that's kind of like just the MTV way. And I know there's a lot of shows that do that, but Survivor is really like the mature, it's the older brother, it's the older sister, it's the mature one. And I just hope that all these great characters don't just bleed into MTV, because then they also ruin their chances of coming back for Survivor, which maybe will be good because they'll stop bringing so many people back. But I don't know. It's just, it's not as exciting. I don't want to watch the survivors play
the challenge.
I want to watch them play Survivor.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. And like, look, I love Michelle, and I saw her talking about it on Twitter. She was like, should I do this? Like the challenge? Like I've seen people talking about it, and a lot of people were like, yeah. And I've seen just with what she's posted on social media, and like she did an AMA on Reddit not too long ago. I just don't think she would enjoy it, to be honest.
I don't either.
She is a board game puzzle type person. She's obviously got an incredible social game. I think she would handle the politics and the strategy of the challenge fine because it's easier than Survivor. But it's at its core a physical game, and she's not super into sports. I don't know. I don't feel like that would be something she would want to do. I mean,
I don't love it. I don't think it's a good pairing. Like Natalie makes total sense.
Natalie makes total sense. Sarah Lucina.
Sarah Lucina would kick ass on this show.
Yeah, she even like a parody, to be honest, because she's got that challenge prowess. I don't think she would do it now with her child, but yeah, I think Yeah, Sarah and Natalie make sense to me. I don't know if Michelle would be like the best fit for the show.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I just don't think she makes sense, and I don't feel like in the house, like I don't know. I just don't see Michelle getting along, or not getting along. I think she get along with anybody, but I don't know. I just don't see it. It doesn't make sense to me. So I don't know. I'd watch it though, and that's pretty much the only way they're going to get me back for season 37 is if Michelle is on it. And now that it sounds like she might be, there you go. So maybe I will be watching season 37. And yes, I am engaged, but still, Michelle is,
Key to most part. Michelle Fitzgerald. It's that simple.
That's it. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. Also, if Sarah's on it, I'd probably watch that too, because I think Sarah would beat the crap out of all these people. So that would be fun. I think Sarah would cause a lot of drama and then just be able to beat them all in the challenges, which would be awesome. I love to watch. Maybe we could get a Michelle versus Sarah hall brawl. Sorry, Michelle, but maybe peeling you off the floor after that.
That would be amazing. Other people are talking about Sydney from Co-Wrong. I could see her on here since she's a bodybuilder. Michaela,
she would be good.
That makes sense.
Michaela would be very good. Cole wouldn't be good. Cole doesn't have a big enough of a personality, I don't believe.
Yeah. He looks like a Greek god, though.
He does, but there's everybody on the show looks like a Greek god. Except for CT.
I don't know. Some of the patrons know how I feel about Cole, so I won't get into
Okay, well, there you go. Well, you know what? We'll end this before we get into how you feel about Cole. All right. Moving on. If Michelle Fitzgerald's on season 37, I will reluctantly podcast every week. Although if it's on Wednesday nights, I'm going to be doing Survivor, so I will not be doing this. But anyway, all that being said, we'll be back next week. John will probably be here. I think John will be here. We'll see how it ends up going, but that's what I think. So we'll be back recapping episode 16 on the final day of March. We have almost made it through March of 2021, pretty much unscathed compared to the absolute disaster that was last year. So, oh my God, we have almost made it. Just keep praying for I don't know. I keep thinking about Godzilla versus Kong. And like, that's what I feel like we've been doing this whole year. It's been Godzilla versus Kong. And how's it going to end up turning out? Pretty much horribly for the human race, no matter what. But we're almost done with March. That is a good thing. So we'll be back next week. Alexa and I will be talking about the Cagayan merge, which is Sarah Lucina. That'll be on Tuesday, a little bit earlier. John and I will be talking about, God, what's John's movies? Oh, Dark City and Queen Margot. That's what we'll be doing next week also. And then, you know, Patreon patrons, you can become a patron, patreon.com/survivor specialist. There it is. It's written at the bottom. If you're watching on YouTube, it's right there. It's right there. Go become a patron. Daily content for $20 patrons, weekly content for $10 patrons, monthly content for $5 patrons. Everybody gets an access to the Facebook group, which has been a lot of fun now that there's actually news about Jeff Probst's long gray hair. So that's what I got for this. I will see everybody probably on Monday, I think, at the earliest, or maybe Tuesday. And Annabelle, you will see everybody on Wednesday. Everybody pray for Annabelle's bracket. It